this is kind of in the weeds a bit, as you would say, Tom. I've got a client. He's a gold 1.0. His wife is his business partner as well. She would metal, except she's got some utilization issues. He asked me yesterday when he funds, if she were on the account as a joint applicant, would that be possible, and what would it do for her utilization?
Well, of course it's possible. So but it also wouldn't be recommended. So let's talk about this, maybe for the benefit of everybody as well. So Dane's situation is Dane has a prospect at the top of the funnel who, in his words, would be a metal if it weren't for her utilization. So it's a husband and wife. And obviously, correct me if I'm wrong with any of this, Dane. And so the question from, I think, the husband is, since the wife has high utilization, and am I correct? The husband is probably a metal, Dane?
Yeah, he's a gold 1.0.
Yeah, you said that. So if the question is, if the husband goes to funding for some, personal business credit card combo funding, then would it make sense, or would it help, or would it be wise to make the spouse the co-applicant or the joint applicant? Is that in essence the question, Dane?
Yeah, and we discussed that when we do business funding, it's irrelevant. This is just on the personal side.
Do you mean business credit cards versus personal credit cards, or do you mean personally guaranteed versus non-personally guaranteed?
Business cards. You're correct. If he gets a business card, it shouldn't report backwards to.
Okay. So let's clarify that, because I didn't understand it at first. I think now what you're saying, because we've got a few layers here now, right? So I think now what you're saying is that since for your business credit cards, most of them do not report to the personal credit, reports, that if the spouse, the wife in this case, was a joint cardholder, the business credit card would not lower or reduce her utilization because it's not reporting to the personal credit, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that part is correct. Before I answer the questions, anybody want to chime in here and comment on whether or not this is a good idea for us at LenCred and for this couple? Is it a good or bad idea to include the spouse as a co-borrower or a joint applicant on the applications that the husband's about to do, and why is it good or bad? Anybody want to comment on that?
It's not. I don't believe it's good, because she needs to have her own credit standing, and if you're mixing the water with him, she's not going to have a chance on her own.
I mean, I could probably argue that against you. I suppose there's some merit there potentially. Let's see. Let's keep the dialogue going and see if anybody else wants to chime in here. But there's some potential merit there.
If I was following it, her co-signing or co-positioning doesn't strengthen his application.
I agree. That's correct. Right. So in other words, what Dane's asking, or what the husband's asking, is, can I add a lesser qualified, lower quality applicant to my application? Yes, you can, but we wouldn't advise doing that. So we almost, I don't like using the N word for never, but we almost never do joint applications for a variety of reasons. So Dan, my recommendation would be, let's solve the wife's utilization problem a different way, and let's not lower the quality of his application by adding her and then bringing in new debt and lower credit quality to his application.
Sure. That makes sense. The weird caveat here is she is the majority income within the house, and it's not like she's a train wreck. I mean, she's a 695. Her utilization was at 43%, and his was at 0.4. So,
There you go.
so he's great. So we want to use the household income. We were just trying to figure out a way to, create that win-win-win. But it makes perfect sense.
And that's a great point. I mean, this is one of the things you guys probably all know real well. The CFPB reversed the Card Act's, regulation several years ago to where now the husband can use both his income and his spouse's income. So he will not lose income on his application by not including her, which is a great, that's a completely compliant thing that's got the blessing of the CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and has for several years. Any of you that are interested in that, just do a Google search on Card Act, stay-at-home mom clause. You can read up all about it. But yeah, let's fix her, slightly high utilization. It's not problematic. It's not incredibly bad, but lower is better. And let me ask you another question on this. What level do we want to bring the spouse who's at 43% utilization? Two questions. Number one is, what kind of utilization percentage do we want to get her down to? Number one. And then number two is, are we lowering that utilization because of what we want to happen to the FICO score, or is it for some other reason?
Is that to me?
Say that again. Yeah, good. Yeah, go ahead. You're first.
Okay. I suggested we get her to an 18 or below, because that's kind of the golden standard here. And his thought, as we went round and round with this guy is very savvy. I mean, he's not an average Joe. His thought was, let's go first and grab a couple of 0% business cards, clear out her utilization, and that would solve solve this, but he still wants her to have a larger capacity. And I said, well, once that is gone, both of your credit scores will be very similar. So I don't think it would be an issue then. I just don't want her to bring him down where you could get a card with a 25K limit versus a 10.
No, you're right with all that. There's multiple ways you can skin the cat, and one of the ways you can skin the cat, is using the husband's, business credit approvals to pay down the wives. That's one way to skin the cat. But going back to the original question, let's get one or two other people to kind of chime in here. You said about 18%. If the spouse, the wife in this partnership is at 43% utilization, the first question is, where do we want to get that utilization percentage to in an ideal scenario before we put them in front of some lenders? Dane said 18%. There's not necessarily a right or wrong answer here. Everybody's got an opinion on it. But anybody else want to chime in on maybe the concept there of where you would want to be? Anybody else? Idea, opinion?
John taught me 30% is good, 20% is better, 10% is best.
Look at you. We're going to put you on the training team, Kavika. So you're on the training team. So the rule of thumb in the marketplace, for a variety of reasons, has kind of always been 30%. Okay, in terms of the utilization. It can be higher for different lenders, and it can be, as a rule of thumb, you've got a little higher threshold for personal credit cards than you do business credit cards. And our algorithm over the years has identified certain types of, income and credit profiles that we've turned into scorecards that allow for up to 40%. So there's, certain types of, profiles that have performed real well above that 30% level. Again, we're well aware of the kind of the quote rule in the marketplace of 30%, and it's not a bad one, right? But that rule is generally for lenders more so than for FICO scores. So that's kind of the second question was, we're not so much bringing utilization down to 20 or 18% or whatever because of the FICO score impact. We're doing it because of the underwriting criteria of the lenders primarily. Now, that being said, yes, as a rule of thumb, you go from, 31% to 29% utilization, you probably have a little better FICO score more than likely. I don't think it's big time, and there's no unbelievable magic, line there in 30, of that 30% in terms of your FICO score, but lower is better. Just like 34% is probably better than 36%, probably. But you may or may not see a bump in the score, with that. But the rule of thumb being 30%, and Kavika's right, 20% is better and 10% is better yet. You don't necessarily have to go into splitting hairs on that, as long as we get people's utilization threshold in line, so to speak. Great stuff there.